Okay guys, so let's go ahead and get into today's video, which is going to be a tutorial on how I can do basically an entire doodle sheet recolor with any of my rainbow palettes in 2 clicks using Photoshop Actions. So I have Photoshop pulled up right now. So here's the fun thing, is that I actually don't have my base file. It has the template for the color palette. So I'm going to show you the process of how to make that while I basically remake it. And then we can go through like how to set up the actions and everything. It might be a little bit muddled through because it's been like a while since I initially set this up, and because it's just a couple of clicks, I don't really have to think about the process. So hopefully I'm going to be able to remember enough on how to explain that to you. But let's go ahead and get started first with putting the template for the rainbow palette together. So I do have a few palettes that I like to do. This is the expanded palette, which is basically the rainbow palette that I use when I have like the smaller sized doodles, so I can fit the most rainbow colors in there. So there's 36 colors in this palette. It is a 6x6 kind of grid here. So in order to set up the template, first and foremost, I like to do a bunch of rectangles, and these rectangles are generally going to be the maximum size of the doodles. So I'm going to have to, going forward, make sure all of my doodles fit within these rectangles so that this 2-click system is going to work for all of them, which honestly is how I would want to do it anyway, because they're sized to fit in, I believe, little things or fancy labels. Even third boxes, these might work well for. So it's already kind of sized based on that. I do have templates for that if I wanted to get more specific with it, but if I just try to make the doodles fit inside these boxes, it will pretty much be a fail-safe system. So as you can see here, I've just made a red rectangle, which you can do a number of ways. You can use the actual like rectangle tool, but I don't really like doing that because there's more steps involved. You have to like remove the outline and like change the fill and everything and all that, which I don't like doing. I just like using the rectangle marquee tool and then just like filling it in with the brush tool because it's much quicker. So that's my little hack for that. So I'm gonna kind of try to center it basically where I want it to go. What I have here already pulled up is like the remnants of what happens when you do the 2-click system. So I'm kind of reverse engineering this a little bit. I deleted all of the other parts of it just so I can get the colors already in order, so I don't have to use the eyedropper tool on something that is not already on the page. Okay, so once we have that, we can basically duplicate that as many times as we need to fill out the entire grid, which this duplication step, I will let you know right now, is going to be how we duplicate a lot of things going forward. So there are many ways to duplicate something. You can do Control J, and that gets you a new layer of something. You can just drag that. Or if you hold on to the Alt key and then use your mouse to drag the image, you can do that. But if you want to make it really quick, then you'll do what I am about to show you, which is you press and hold Control Alt and T, and you press those all together, but then you can release those keys, and then you can drag the item with the mouse, which will duplicate it, but it will also consider that as a transform action. Not like an action, but it will consider as a transform. And then from there, I'm sure you guys know about the shortcut where you can do edit transform and then transform again. So what we're gonna do is just use the keyboard shortcuts for that, which is holding down Control, Shift, Alt, and T, and see it's just gonna transform it, aka move it, the exact same way again and again and again all the way down the line. So now we have 6 rectangles on a row. I'm just going to go ahead and center them a little bit more. They don't have to be exact because, again, the doodles are going to be smaller than these rectangles, but I just want to make sure that it kind of lines up as best it can. So we have that. And for the initial transform, you are going to want to put a guide up because it's very hard to do that transform move without having that guide, because it's not going to be able to line up perfectly. So once we have that first row, we can go ahead and duplicate that the same way. Another 5 more times. Okay, so I'm seeing that it's getting a little bit off center as we go down. So the initial one, I'm going to move a little bit closer. And let's see, okay. So that should work fine. And if it doesn't, we can always change it later on. And it is also very important to make sure there is some space between all these rectangles because of the next step. First, we're going to merge all of those onto one layer, and then we're going to recolor the rest of them, which again is why I have the color palette layer on top, because it's really as easy as just using the eyedropper tool to select the color that's on top. And then since we're still on the layer with all the rectangles, just use the paint bucket tool to fill in the layer underneath it. And you can do this with whatever color palette you have. And if you want to create multiple, you can do that as well, because this template is going to be your best friend for pretty much every doodle sheet you create that is with these size doodles. Because again, if you want to do some bigger doodles that are kind of meant for half boxes, then you're going to want to have bigger spaces, bigger rectangles, etc. But generally, I think most shops have like one standard size for their multicolor doodle sheets. So this is going to be endlessly useful for you. So this does go by pretty quickly, so I don't think I'm going to speed through it. But yeah, once you have this, you're going to want to actually save it as a template file instead of like me and just rewriting over it, so that you can reach for it whenever you're about to start a doodle sheet. So you would just pull open this doodle template, and then you would bring in the doodle that you're actually trying to multicolor, and then you can do the 2-click system, and it's that easy. So now that we have that, we're going to get rid of the overlay file. We're going to get rid of the guides, clear guides, and then I'm going to go ahead and make the sheet title more of a template as well, which for the longest time up until now I did not write a line in my sheet titles, so they are all over the place, which is super embarrassing. But that is now fixed going forwards. Okay, so there we go. So this we can save as a template, multi-color doodle template. All right. So that's what we're going to start with. And now, let's see if I can show you an example using little Figaro here. So, in order to set up our action, we're going to click the plus button here to add a new action. I'm just going to name it temp 1, so I don't mess with either of the ones that I already have set up in case I make a mistake. And now we're going to go ahead and duplicate him the same way as I showed you before with the rectangles. So first we're going to drag our guide down, and then we're going to do Control-Alt-T and drag him across. Make sure he's kind of centered before we set him down so that it does it in the right place. And then we're going to do Control-Shift-Alt-T until we have him all the way across. Then we're going to go ahead and merge those layers. We are going to clear that guide and then bring a new guide so we can duplicate it going down the rows instead of the columns. And then we're going to do the same thing, Control-Alt-T to drag him downwards, place him down, and then we're going to go ahead and convert that layer to a smart object so that the image doesn't get distorted and parts of it get cut off as we go further down the page, because that does tend to happen. And then again, Control-Alt-Shift-T until he's all the way down. And there we go. So that, we're going to merge those again. And there we go. That is pretty much the entire first action done. So we're going to press stop recording, and then there we go. So temp 1 should now be about the same as duplicate doodles. So now we should be able to test that out just to make sure. Let's see, I think it was 0.32, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 0.32 for the width. Okay. Now let's get rid of the guides. Alright, centered that. And now let's see if temp 1 gives us the desired effect. And yes, sure enough, there we go. He has been duplicated perfectly. Okay, so that is the easy one. Now the doodle cleanup, I call it, the one where we kind of format everything, is quite a bit harder. Okay, so let's go ahead and try out an example using Little Figaro. So now that we've already duplicated him properly, another step that I took before going to the next was making the background color gray, which I typically like to do when I'm working with anything that has an outline, so I can see the white outline against the background a little bit easier. So now we're going to go ahead and record the next step, which is the cleanup step, the next action. So I'm going to go ahead and name that tab 2, and then we're going to start recording. So first, we're going to click the rainbow palette. Now, everything that I click has to be in the correct order that I click it. You cannot skip a step because it's not going to work properly. So follow very closely. Click the layer that says expanded rainbow palette, and again, it must say expanded rainbow palette. This should be in your template. We're going to hide that layer. Now we're going to click the top layer, which should say layer 2 copy 11. Again, it must say that. You must click it in this correct order. Now you're going to use the magic wand tool. Just click anywhere in the gray area to select everything on the outside of the cats. And then now, let me reference here. So now we're going to click back to, actually first, we're going to show the expanded rainbow palette layer, and then we're going to click that layer. And now we're going to press the delete key to get rid of all the excess coloring, and then we're going to deselect. So now we can see that all of our cats have their properly colored collars. Okay, so now our next step is to set layer styles of the current layer. So go to the FX button, and we're going to set an outer glow, make it pure white. I like to do a size of 8, but you can adjust this to whatever you think your machines are going to cut. Mine can cut pretty precisely, so 8 is fine. Maybe 9, just to give it a little more wiggle room. So now that we have that, our next step is going to be making a copy of that layer. I'm going to do Control-G this time because I want it, Control-J this time because I want it where it is. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that step. So I stopped the recording of the action. I am going to delete that particular step, and then we're going to press record again so that it can continue. So once we have our layer, which is in the exact same place, we're going to go ahead and rasterize that layer style. And then now we're going to do the same outer glow, except it's going to be the mock outline. So we're going to make it a light pink and then make it size 1. And now we're going to go to layer 1 and then make it white. And there we go. Stop recording the action, and that should be the entire process right there to get our finished version. So now that we have that all recorded, let's go ahead and back everything up that we just did and see if it can do it with just that one click now that we've already set that action up. All right, here's the moment of truth. We have that. We're going to press play and see what it does. Okay, perfect. So we've got our mock layer, and then once we remove that middle layer, which is the expanded rainbow palette copy, then we have the print version. So we have the mock and the print, and there we go. So 2 clicks, we can have this all set up perfectly. So let's go all the way back to the beginning, and actually let's just take care of all these guys. And we'll do an example with Winnie instead of Figaro. And we'll make her the same size, maybe a little bigger. Okay. And now we got 2 clicks. We got our temp 1, which will duplicate her, and then temp 2, which will clean her up. There we go. Beautiful. It's as simple as that. So I hope that helped you guys. And again, just like have a look here at all the steps and screenshot that if you have to, so that if you ever like get lost in the process, you can kind of follow the order that you have to click things. So that's Doodles Cleanup, which is the harder one. And then duplicate Doodles. And the ones that we did were temp 1. And then temp 2. So yeah, 2-click doodles. And again, you can do this with whatever rainbow palette that you have, and you can change up the colors. You can change up the sizes of things, but now you understand the main concept and how to record the actions, so you can adjust that to your own workflow. So I hope that was really helpful. Again, if you have questions, leave them down below and I will try to answer as best I can. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to like, comment, subscribe, and share, that would be amazing. And I will see you in my next video. Ciao, ciao.